All right, welcome everyone. Just let everyone join the session. All right, guys, welcome to the second part of the TechX series between Digisoc and TechTrive. So in today's session, we'll be continuing on from last session, and we'll be looking more thoroughly into tech roles, specifically in PM, UX, and UI. So today we've got guest speakers Gloria from Canva, as well as Grace and Ro, who are from Salesforce. We've also got 𝒉𝒿 joining us again from TechTrive, who will be running today's session. So if you guys have any questions throughout the session, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comment section, and we'll get back to it at the end of the session in the Q&A session. There's also going to be an attendance form. We'll send a link to that. So if you guys could fill out the attendance form, that would be fantastic. So now I shall pass it on to 𝒉𝒿 and we can get started with it.
Awesome. Thanks, James. So as James mentioned before, I'm here today from TechTrive. So we'll be going through exactly what it takes to be an amazing product manager, UI, UX designer. And so we've got a spectacular panelist, as James mentioned beforehand. But before we go through that, I'm going to ask a very intimate question, and I want everyone to really be a part of it. And that intimate question is, how many hours do you spend a day on TikTok? So I want everyone to mention down in the comment section below, if you're streaming from Facebook, if you're streaming from YouTube, how many hours do you spend a day? I'll go through my phone to help you also know that I too am going to share something that's very intimate with me. So let's all have a look. Just pop down how many hours you're spending. We all know everyone here on this stream most likely has downloaded it as either a super active user or somewhat a not so much active user. All right. So I'm just going to open up how many hours I'm going to spend. I know I spend a lot of time on my phone nowadays, especially being at home. So yesterday was a good, got 0 hours from Emily. Amazing. Okay. So I've got from yesterday a good 1.5 hours. And don't mind me, it was yesterday. It was an evening as well. So I've got a couple of people saying 0. So it's quite interesting. Now I'm going to show what on average people spend on TikTok. And this takes into account of both inactive users and active users. On a day, people spend about 52 minutes. Now that's, if you aggregate that across the week, that is a lot of time. And I'm pretty sure everyone here is probably having 0 because it is exam season as well. So it is also due to that too. But there's a reason why people spend a lot of time on TikTok. And that's because everything that you're seeing on a TikTok homepage, whether it's the following page, whether it's the For You page, is meticulously made just so people can have a great experience. And every part, whether it be as simple as the text and the color, the menu bar, different animations, how you can enter in your favorite music tracks or any animations that you might want to have within the video, as well as how you interact. There's a like button, the comment button. All of this is composed meticulously just for your experience. And it's not just on TikTok, but across a variety of different product ranges. So if you think about the realm of tech, you've got your business to business products. So your B2B, whether it be your Microsoft Teams, whether it be the likes of Salesforce, or your B2C products, such as TikTok, such as Facebook, or even what you might be familiar with is everyone is holding their devices. If you are an Android user, an iPhone user, just comment down below. I know that's also a big conversation point. So physical products, whether you're an iPhone, Android, PS4, Xbox, a lot of that is also in the realm of product and experience as well, whether it be an Airbnb experience, whether it be a review experience, all of that is inclusive of the realm of product management and UI UX, or a lot of the buzzwords people hear about now, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, as well as something, not just your, all of these are really big products, but also your additive features, such as, the like button, as simple as the like button on Facebook. So we'll be going more into detail, and we'll be having our first speaker hop on first. So before all of that, we'd love to hear where everyone is from. We've got Grace, who's all the way from America as well. So big thank you to her for buzzing in at 8 o'clock in the evening. And we've got Gloria, who's from Sydney, and also Rose from Sydney as well. So we'd love to hear which state you are in. So just comment down the section if you're on YouTube, on Facebook, which state you're in. So how can you be a part of this amazing tech realm of product management, of UI, UX? And I'd like to firstly introduce our first speaker, Ro. So hop on stage, Ro. I'll give a quick introduction. She is currently a UI, UX designer at Salesforce, previously a demo engineer within Salesforce as well. She was also an analyst for Dimensions Data and held multiple roles across different companies as a webmaster, as a graphic designer, and she had a background in IT at Western Sydney University. On the side, she's also super passionate about volunteering, especially with Salesforce's 56 hours a year that they give on volunteering. Volunteers for Food Bank, Oz Harvest, and Hour of Code as well. And she loves human-centered design experience. So she believes there's 5 supervillain commandments. Number 1 is obsession with purpose. Number 2 is chaos and as play. Number 3 is tolerate failure. Number 4 is think you can win. And number 5 is rebirth, which is pretty cool. So I'll bring Ro on stage. So welcome, Ro. It's nice to have you on as a panelist.
Excited to be here.
So the first question that I have is, how did you get to where you are today? And what made you decide to be a UI UX designer?
Yeah, sure. So I studied information technology, but I've always been really creative, and I like the art side of web and graphics. So that was something that I considered doing it at the beginning. But when I was going to uni, technology was so much different back then. Like we were just doing basic CSS and HTML and web design, but now there's like CSS5 and JavaScript and all these animated responsiveness. So basically, like pretty much everything that I learned in uni is irrelevant now. After I graduated, I heard about this kind of new industry called UX design, and I had never heard of it before. So I did a little bit of research. And then when I heard about how much entry-level UX designers were getting, I was like, bullshit, really? And then immediately went on LinkedIn to apply for jobs, and then ended up here in Salesforce as a UX designer.
That's awesome. And I think you make a really good point around there's a stark difference around what things you use back in uni to using it in the workplace. So can you give us a glimpse on what your role entails? I know you've got a slide prepared for you. So can you talk a bit more about this with us?
Yeah, so I'm sure that everyone has seen a meme like this before. UI stands for user interface, and UX stands for user experience. And what many people might think is that, you design these apps and websites. And then if we go to what my mum thinks I do, she just basically thinks I'm always on my phone and my computer playing games, which is not far from the truth. I did spend 2.5 hours on TikTok yesterday. So yeah, work and play do kind of go hand in hand sometimes. I think because it's still such a niche industry, people think that we're, doing witchcraft and wizardry and, playing with these holograms and doing these augmented reality stuff, which I think is going to be what UI UX is going towards in the future. But at the moment, it's more like, going into meetings and creating these mock-ups and prototypes that you can, add these click paths on that pretty much end up looking like spaghetti, and getting your head around that. If you can imagine debugging in a design situation, that's pretty much my job.
That's awesome. I know we've got some other slides as well. So if you'd want, I can press next and give us a quick glimpse on the differences between UI and UX. You may get that question quite a lot, right?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people think that user experience and user interface are pretty much interchangeable, and they mean the same thing, but in reality, it's a little bit different. or some might say it's very different. So on the surface, user interface is what you see, like the design, the pure the visual aspect of it, while user experience is how it works, how people interact with it. So I'll give you the example of the ketchup bottles. The first one, user interface, it looks really pretty and sleek, but it might not be the best to use. Whereas user experience, it tips it on its head so that the ketchup comes out more easy. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference between user interface and user experience. And if we go to the next slide, we can just break it down a little bit more. So user experience is what you see on the surface. It could be the layout, it could be the visual design, branding, typography, colors. While user experience, you focus more on what's inside. So wireframes, as we call it, is what the skeleton of the app or the website looks like. And then how we users interact with it. So click paths, the information architecture. And there's also various other things like the story behind it, the strategy, the scope of it, and the overall structure. Yeah, and this is an example of a UX project. It's one of my favorite UX designs. I didn't make it, but this is something that I always look towards for inspiration, and it is a zoo app. And if you go to the next slide, so this is what's on the surface versus what's underneath the design.
Oh, wow, a lot that really goes into it.
Yeah, there's a lot of research.
So I think from the first time I learned about UI UX, I was actually walking across the street, and it was that one was a really nice, pretty road, and the other one was literally on the gravel, and people were stepping on top of it. And someone explained that's literally the differences. So apart from learning that, I know it takes a lot more to become a UI UX designer. So can you walk through exactly what it takes to become a successful UI UX designer?
Sure. I guess a lot of companies don't actually understand the role themselves. Case in point, when I got hired, my manager didn't really know what he was in for, and I had to, kind of build this role around me. It's also known as UX UI design, which is just UI and UX swapped, and it's actually interchangeable with product design. So since it's such a new industry, everything in technology is constantly evolving. So I think some companies have started to call it product design instead of UI UX design, because it's just basically a merging of UI and UX, and sometimes it involves a little bit more front end as well. So what makes it? How do you succeed as a good UI UX design? I think the most important part is understand your customer's needs. Think about your design from the customer's perspective. I know it's easy to come up with like a design that looks pretty on the outside, but it could be a disaster to use from like a user's perspective. And everyone has different, they have different ideas of what is attractive to them. So I think to be able to be a good designer is to think it from all perspectives, and do your research, be a good listener, be a good observer, and be able to find out what's important for the user.
That's a good point you make. It's all about the user experience, right? So I think on here as well, you've got what should you be looking out for. So do you have any examples that you could give for anyone who is maybe coming from a different background that they can use, whether it be it's in an interview or whether it be applying for the role?
If you're specifically looking for UI UX, like you can just search UX and all these specific UX roles will pop up. I think that's the beauty of it, because it is very specific in the scope of this role. However, if you're coming from a graphics design or web design background, some of that skill also carries over. So it might not be as much to learn as if you were coming from like a sales background, so or a developer background. So that's one of the things that you should look out for. Having said that, if you are coming from like a more artistic background, UX is it's a very analytical kind of position to work in. So you still have to. There's still a lot of learning to do. If you want to play with colors and graphics, that's fine. But yeah, the analytical part also comes with this kind of role.
That's it. Yeah, you heard of it. Heard it here, folks. It's there's a whole bunch of areas, and it can be transferable, right? From what you've been saying.
Exactly. Also, like Adobe Photoshop is more on the graphics side, but there are tools like Adobe XD, which is completely free, which a lot of UI UX designers like to use to create their prototypes and wireframes. And there's a lot of prototype tools that are coming up like every month or every year. It's such a fast evolving space. So I think it's really important to stay on top of technology. You have to constantly learn, and I think that's the beauty of having a role like this is it never stagnates. There's always something new to learn, and there's always a new software or app to get used to.
That's awesome. Thanks for that, Ro. And I think just cautious of time, we do have time for the wheel of questions. So we'll give it a bit of a spin to see what question we have for you as well. And this was curated from our audience as well, who's interested either in PM, UI, UX. So the question is all people in tech all nerds and male?
I'm certainly male and a nerd, as you can see. No, absolutely not. My team is a split between, actually we're majority girls. So 3 of our developers are girls and 2 of our developers are guys. And if you go into UI UX design, it's even more evenly split between guys and girls. I know developers, some companies might prefer guys, but in reality, a lot of companies are looking for equality. So yeah, definitely you don't have to be a nerd and you don't have to be male too.
That's a good point. And if anyone hasn't actually figured out, we've got an all-women panelists who are the best at what they do. So that's probably the biggest sign for this question that's self-answered through how amazing our panelist is today. And we've picked the best in the industry. So thanks for answering that question and demystifying that for us, Ro. So apart from that, if we've got a lot more people coming through the live stream, if you found that of interest and found out of new learning, then give it a quick react, give it a heart react if you're on Facebook or a like on YouTube. And if you're interested yourself in the realm of UI UX design or product design, then put hashtag UI UX in the comment section below so we know that you're interested and we can even connect with you if you are interested in that area as well. So thanks again, Ro, for being able to be a part of the panelists, and we're glad to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So our next panelist that we'll be having is, as Ro mentioned before, there's different names, and we've got an amazing product designer at Canva. Her name is Gloria. She's currently, as I mentioned, a product designer at Canva. Previously, she was a UX designer at Rocked, focusing on the realm of e-commerce, and has a really great experience across product design and marketing at C-Ladder, driver partner operations at Uber. And something that I find really relevant was an audit at KPMG. And we're both the same, Gloria. So kudos for coming from a commerce background as well. She majored in accounting and marketing at UNSW. And she shares a lot of her knowledge and experience on product design and product design process on her Medium blog, which we'll be sharing down below as well. And we'll also be sharing her Lunch and Learn session with the UNSW Digisoc Society. So we'll bring Gloria on board. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the panelists. We're super honored to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So as we heard before, give us a bit about how you got to where you are today, because you come from a completely different educational background. So we'd love to hear how you got into the realm of product design.
Yeah. So I did go through a very unconventional route. So like you mentioned, I started out in accounting. So I did a commerce degree and I majored in accounting and marketing. And then during my university degree, I also did what was called a cadetship program with one of the big 4 firms. So I worked at KPMG as an auditor. Quickly realized that it really wasn't for me. It was a very corporate environment, very structured, not very creative, basically doing the same thing every day. So I guess, fortunately, I realized that before I graduated, and I decided that I was more interested in like a creative role. I've always wanted to do something related to design, but coming from an Asian background, it's like, well, design's not really a financially stable job. But I guess, I kind of had to experiment with, a few other roles before I landed up to where I am now. So I guess from uni, I then took up a role at Uber, did a bit of like operational stuff. And then I also did a few hackathons in the community. So startups at the time were becoming like the new thing. And at UNSW, there was a program called Startup Launch. So they really encouraged students and alumni to kind of join forces and build and pitch a product to a panel and actually see that come through. And that I think piqued my interest. And from there, I attended a lot of hackathons in the community. And I was fortunate to have been connected to somebody else who was working on an idea that I was really passionate about, a problem that I was really passionate about. And that was kind of, how do graduates who have no experience get experience? And that became like my unofficial entry into like the design role. From that, I was able to learn tools like Sketch and Envision, and then I then applied for let me backtrack. And then was also doing a digital marketing role at Rocked at the time, so that was kind of like my grad job. But then a year into that, there was an opening for a UX design role. And I guess I was like, oh, this is something that I'm interested in. I talked to a few people in the company, and they were I was lucky to have been given the opportunity to work on that for a couple of months before they gave it to me as an official role. And then, from that, a year later, I met someone at Canva, and then I guess that's how I landed into Canva as a product designer. So it was a bit of a lot of trial and error, but I think it's a good thing to do, especially when you're still figuring out what you want to be or what career you want to pursue after uni. I think there's a lot of stuff that you don't really figure out or find out until you kind of leave university, and that's where all the real world stuff kicks in. And I think when you're young, you should definitely try as many things as you can. Because that will help you formulate, what you like and what you dislike about a potential job or career path.
Yeah, that's a very inspiring background, because you come from an unconventional background across non-technical roles and figuring out early on that it's not something that you think is best for you, and you did a lot of trial and error and got to such an amazing role today, which I think would love to hear exactly what you do at Canva, which you've also got in prep. I really love these slides as well around giving an idea of what people think you do, friends think you do. And you mentioned before your family as well, thought about design as a completely different thing as opposed to what it actually is. So could you take us through what you do at Canva?
Yeah. So I guess my parents still don't know what I actually do today. I just say I'm a designer. I do creative stuff, and they're like, okay, cool. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of like ambiguity around what product design means. I think Ro mentioned it's still a relatively niche, kind of new and emerging area. So, terms like UX and UI and product design are thrown around, and people really don't know what that means. But essentially it is, a mix of UX and UI. But also I think it transcends that, in that as a product designer, you're kind of, you're really focusing on what impact does this product have on people and society. And you're utilizing what we call the design thinking process to really go from just an idea all the way to actually developing it and seeing it shipped and being put into the user's hands. I guess just looking at the slide though, like, my friends think I'm a developer. They think I can code stuff. I really don't. It's actually not required, because I know people might be wondering if you need to know how to code, but really it's just simply drag and drop. And some people confuse UX UI design with like graphic design. So my boss in my old company used to think I was a graphic designer. So he would ask me to do like marketing flyers and all of that, but that's really more like visual design. It's more focused on the aesthetics rather than the actual like functionality and the user experience. Society thinks that, we're like these creators. There's still, a lot of, they're like, doing really cool stuff like what Steve Jobs does. But in reality, what we're really doing is sitting in front of a screen like that guy, working in the weeds of like Figma and like all of our design tools. But I will say that it's not just limited to using those tools. Like there are other aspects to it, such as user research. So you will be expected to like talk to customers, understand their problems, their pain points, run ideation sessions or brainstorming sessions where you come up with the solution before you actually go into the prototyping and the designing phase. And even after that, you'll be doing usability testing. So making sure that that the solution validates the problem and it actually solves the user's pains that you identified up front. And then once it's shipped, you have to kind of monitor the success metrics and grow and optimize that product, because as society changes, user needs will change. So as a product designer, you kind of need to monitor that and make sure that the product is flexible and adapts to those growing changes. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a lot of reiterative process there, and from what you've been saying, it's all still about the customer. I think there's this common theme going on. It's literally about customer centricity.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a point before around landing a job. I think you've got this article as well, which we'll be linking down very soon, about landing a career in UX design with zero qualifications, right? So a lot of people are probably thinking, what transferable skills can they bring over, especially with you coming from a completely different background?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a few examples? I think we've got the slide here as well on what it takes to come through from a non-traditional career background.
Yeah. I think, there's a pretty low barrier to entry in terms of like getting into UX and even like software development stuff. A lot of people that I know are self-taught, and they come from completely different backgrounds. So I don't think that there's much emphasis on the technical side, because I think that can definitely be developed over time and through experience and practice. But I think what's more important is like just being able to communicate well. So really important skill to have as a designer is actually communication and storytelling. So being able to kind of craft a story to help people understand like what you're solving for, or like what you're designing for. There's also things like teamwork. So teamwork, working together with other people. How well do you work as an individual versus in a team? There's a level of product thinking. So product thinking is like, well, it's not just considering the needs of the users, it's also considering the needs of your stakeholders and the business goals. How does that all kind of work together? And I think just overall like attitude, willingness to learn, those obviously are given. The industry is constantly shifting, is constantly evolving. You can't just learn one thing and expect that to be the case for the next 10 years. You really have to be on top of emerging trends and new tools and stuff like that. So I think that's really important to have. But yeah, I think like things like UI design, that I wouldn't say I'm a very strong UI designer, but I've been able to kind of pick that up as I work and as I practice my skills. UX, having empathy for the user, just being able to understand or put yourself in someone else's shoes is a really important skill to have as well. So I think a lot of these aren't necessarily technical, they're more soft skill related. And the technical stuff you can, practice and do that over time. So yeah.
Is there anything that you can help boost your application? Whether it's, I think if I can pull back a bit of your experience from your accounting, any experiences from there that's transferable, or even as such as a hackathon that you've mentioned before that you were part of, any of those experiences that you can provide as an example for anyone looking to transfer into product design?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say, like when you're in a corporate environment, there's a lot of structure and there's a certain way of working. So you need to be very organized and very, detail oriented as well. I think when you're working in a startup that is fast growing, like at Canva, there isn't much structure and there's a lot of chaos. So being a designer, you kind of have to be able to pull all of the information together and turn that into something that can be digested. So kind of, organizing your files, organizing your design documents, making sure that, like I mentioned about storytelling, being able to craft a story and having that strong communication skills ties into having, strong organizational skills as well. From a hackathon perspective, I think, working with developers, that's a pretty important skill to have, just knowing how to kind of organize the files so that it makes sense to a developer, working with them closely to identify any like edge cases. Working under pressure is another thing. I think when there's a lot of stuff going on, you need to be able to prioritize and scope things down from this visionary product to like an MVP. But yeah, I think those are kind of like the key kind of transferable skills, at least from that perspective or from that context. I think like just what Canva looks for is, a mix of like user experience skills, a mix of like product thinking, but also balancing that out with, prototyping and UI. So I think we really do value having a balance of both. And yeah, like I said before, just, communication, storytelling, like I know I kind of like bang on that, but like it's actually very important because you need to know how to pitch and sell your ideas as well. You are, seen as a visionary. So product designers, they're designing for the future. So you need to have that big picture thinking and the ability to kind of go, well, what does this product look like in the next 1 or 2 or 5, 10 years from now? It doesn't necessarily have to be fleshed out, but just having an idea of where you see this product going in future is a really, unique and special skill to have. And not many people can do that. It's quite hard. So having that strategic level thinking is equally as important as being in the weeds and doing like the day-to-day of the actual like designing stuff is important.
And that's a very good point. You just laid out a lot of different experiences where people can pull from instead of just one requirement. There's a lot of different areas that you can have as a strength that you can transfer over. Which are very good points. Thanks for sharing that, Gloria. And we do have, as tradition, a quick wheel question. So let's see what question it brings up for you. And the question is, what is the most challenging thing about your job? I think work is a very strong word. But what is the most challenging part of your job?
Yeah, I will say that, there are a lot of really great things about product design. Like, I think I personally enjoy just the whole end-to-end experience. So, starting with the problem, doing the user research, and then actually, working with the team to come up with the solution before shipping it. I really love that big picture. But I guess the challenging thing, and I guess this doesn't just apply to product design, but probably in other situations, is just being able to manage stakeholder expectations. So when you're in a smaller company, it's a little less challenging because there are fewer people to deal with, and you're usually working with the people who have the biggest stake in that product anyway. But as the company grows and it gets bigger, and there's like 20 different teams, 1,000 people in the organization, you kind of need to figure out who the right people are to connect to, and make sure that the product that you're designing caters to their needs and caters to their expectations and considers their input as well. So obviously, as a product designer, you're not expected to shoulder all of that. You do have a product manager that you work with closely who also helps with that, with those conversations. But as a product designer, you also need to be collaborating with other product designers as well to make sure that the end solution that you ship has considered the other kind of features or the other needs of the users that they're looking after. So there's a lot of like cross collaboration that happens at Canva, and I think I think we do a pretty good job of that. Just making sure that we always aligned and meet up on a regular basis to kind of share our learnings and to give context around what we're working on. But yeah, I would say that the challenging thing of the role is managing various different stakeholder needs and expectations. But I think that's also a skill that is developed over time and with experience as well. So yeah, so don't be afraid of that. I think it's something that you will master once you build up your level of experience.
Yeah, well laid out. I think that's a very good point about collaboration. It's a huge key part, whichever industry you're in, and especially how many different stakeholders you're working with, your customers, your different teams. And what you mentioned before, product manager, which we have coming up, Grace, which I guess a different company, but you collaborate a lot with them. So thank you again, Gloria, for giving us a glimpse on what it takes to become an amazing product designer, as well as a glimpse into the life of Canva as well. So we'll be having again Gloria at the end doing a couple of Q&A, and we'll be putting down below very soon on her amazing Medium articles, as well as the video that she did with UNSW too. So thank you again, Gloria, for being on as a panelist.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing.
So if anyone found it of interest, of new learning, again, just give it a quick react on Facebook or YouTube if you're on there. And if you are very interested as well and want to connect with us, just put down #product_design if you're interested in being a product designer. So thanks again, Gloria. I will have on very super excited to actually have our next speaker. She's buzzing in from all the way up in America as well. So it's about 8:37 p.m. on her side. I have Grace about to hop on. So Grace currently is a product management at Salesforce. She's also a business analyst doing a co-op program at Blue Wolf, which is an IBM company, and she's held various roles beforehand, including being a PM at GE Lighting and a variety of different marketing roles. So similar to Gloria, with a different background in terms of education, Grace is actually doing a Bachelor in Business Admin at Northeastern University, and whoever trying to think where that is, that's in Boston, in America, and she has a focus in marketing as well. Now, she's also the co-founder of Product Buds, which is a diverse community of aspiring product managers who come from a variety of different educational, career, and cultural backgrounds, with a huge following of 7K of active users on LinkedIn and on their Slack channel as well. And she also helps with a lot of the webinars with a variety of different product leaders, interview prep sessions, workshops, and a ton more valuable events. So I will bring Grace on board. Thanks again for being able to call all the way from America, Grace.
Hey, 𝒂𝒊. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So we are here just to learn across everyone's journey, from Glorious and Rose and yourself. So tell us a bit more of how you got to where you are today and what made you really excited about being a PM, because you are literally the only person I think that really owns such a really great role in America.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so when I started college at Northeastern, I knew that I wanted to be a business major, and I actually started off with an entrepreneurship concentration because I was someone who was really excited about the idea of building a product or a service and like really scaling it from the ground up. And it's mainly because of the fact that I come from a pretty entrepreneurial family. And then as I progressed through my first year of university, I also took a marketing class, and I realized that marketing was pretty interesting too. So I switched my concentration to marketing. And as I was on the hunt for my very first internship in college, I was thinking that, oh, I'll just get a marketing internship because that's what I'm studying anyway. It just makes logical sense. And unfortunately, as I was going about my internship search for marketing roles, I realized that I was having a really difficult time. Like 3 months passed of me trying to look for marketing roles without any luck. I was getting interviews, but no offers. And so I met with one of my academic advisors, and she told me, hey, Grace, like, have you considered maybe diversifying your job search a little bit more outside of just marketing? And I said, okay, that's cool. Like, I'll try to look for other things then. And at the same time, there was this alum from my university who came to make a presentation about the internship program at GE Lighting. And they said that they were hiring a product manager intern. And I was really unaware of what a product manager was, what skills I needed to be a PM, and what the job entailed. But I decided to apply anyway because she was talking about all the learning opportunities that the job would have. And lo and behold, I spent 6 months as a product manager intern / co-op at GE Lighting. I did a lot of different things, from user research to product specs to usability testing and QA, and a lot of product analytics too. And following that experience, I realized that product management was a field that combined my entrepreneurial spirit, but also my really big hunger for looking at the intersection of business, technology, and design, and how when you combine all these different team members in a company, you can really create amazing products that are user-focused and benefit the business. So as I was on the hunt for my second internship, I mainly leveraged LinkedIn this time. And I was able to come upon a product manager intern application for Salesforce. And I thought, okay, like, Salesforce is an amazing company from what I had heard in terms of the culture. At the time, I knew a little bit about their products, but I hadn't really known a lot. So I was thinking like, oh, like, I'll just apply and see what happens. I applied, and I guess my LinkedIn profile was pretty sweet because the recruiter contacted me the next day and was like, hey, would you like to interview for this product manager internship? And long story short, I went through a really long recruitment process. It was like 4 months of different interviews and also rejections. And then this past summer, that's what I did. I did the product manager internship at Salesforce. I was on the production engineering tools team, developing a lot of like internal tools used by engineers. And that was an experience that taught me a lot of technical jargon, built up my technical like skills and fluency, but also exposed me to the amazing culture that Salesforce has. And for anyone that is interested in like learning more about the culture of Salesforce, you can easily look it up online and see all the amazing things about why people enjoy working there, and what kind of core values the business has. And I'll be joining Salesforce full time after graduating in May of 2021. And I'll be joining them as a product management specialist, which is essentially a product manager at the company. So I'm very excited, and it's been a great journey so far.
That's awesome, and thanks for sharing us how you came from this marketing focused background and had all these different challenges and getting to where you are today. 4 months is definitely a long period of time to go through a recruitment cycle. So congratulations on getting to where you are today. So yeah, give us a glimpse on what it looks like as a PM or your role product management specialist. And they've got something here that you've prepared as well, as we've seen many times, a lot of Zoom calls. But give us a quick glimpse on what it takes on you to go through your role.
Yeah, of course. So my friends and my mom and my family, they all pretty much get the gist that I'm in meetings all day, which is true. And, in my first internship, luckily I was an in-person experience and I was able to have in-person meetings like the first picture. But the second picture is more like current day, what meetings look like over Zoom and Google Meet. But the reason why product managers are in meetings all day is because we are at the center of aligning so many different stakeholders. So we're, depending on which company you work at, like you're going to interface with like different people. But I would say that in general, PMs are going to be on a day-to-day basis interfacing with their engineers, with their designers, with their leadership teams, right? Like, the people in charge of, giving you the budget and ensuring that you're being held accountable for revenue generation because of the product that you're developing. But also people in product marketing and product sales and learning and development and legal even, and maybe even supply chain, so that you can really work together to achieve a certain product vision that you've set out either at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the quarter. Product managers are constantly looking at their product roadmap and making sure that they're on track to be able to achieve those product roadmap goals. And they might even be meeting on a day-to-day with a project manager too, to be able to deliver on those like timelines. And in terms of like the other pictures we see here, what my boss thinks I do, yeah, I think that one and even what society thinks I do is pretty similar too, where like there are a lot of like perceptions that product managers are just whiteboarding all the time, which like, yeah, whiteboarding is a good way to go about the earlier stages of the product development lifecycle, which is like ideation, right? And storyboarding and, really understanding the user journeys, which is important, yeah. But that's like just one small part of the job. And there's like a lot of other parts that are like happening in the later stages of the product development process. For example, in the image in the middle on the bottom row, what I think I do inside that computer screen, it's actually a dashboard of like product metrics. So as a PM, you do a lot, you spend a lot of time like measuring your product's metrics. So things like user engagement, user retention, and user adoption, making sure that your product is actually resonating with your target demographic. And if it's not, if user retention for your product is really low, where like, your users are onboarding, but then they're not really staying on your app, staying on your product. Why is that, right? And as a PM, it's really important to be able to kind of be a detective and to assess the reasons behind why your product is not necessarily performing as expected, and be able to iterate on user feedback, keep the user's needs at the center of everything that you do, and stay calm in the midst of all the craziness. That's the last picture. The last picture is like, a lot of PMs are typically pretty stressed on a day-to-day basis because there's almost always like unexpected fires that come up while you're developing a product and after you've launched a product. So you're the person that's in charge of putting out those fires, or your job is on the line. I mean, I'm just keeping it real.
So I can say that you've got a pile of pencils on the side just in case that something goes wrong and you just need something to chew on. So yeah, that's great. Love it. So I think you make a good point around, there's a lot of different elements that go into it, and it's not just about whiteboarding to make a product come into life, which I think it might be a bit more different now because everyone's online and there's no physical whiteboard. So would love to hear exactly what it takes, and you've got it here as well. So what it takes to be a PM, experience-wise. You come from a completely different background, a non-traditional educational background as well. So can you help us understand exactly what it might look like for someone to move into the role of a PM?
Yeah, for sure. One of the most common questions I get is, oh, if I don't have a technical background, can I break into product management? The answer is yes, you can. Even at a tech company, it will require you to finesse a little bit and to actually demonstrate to your interviewer that you have some sort of interest and growth mindset when it comes to learning about technology, right? Like if you come from a non-technical background, have you made actual, efforts towards maybe taking an online coding course, or attending a hackathon and building a project, because as a product manager on a day-to-day basis, as I said before, you're interacting with software engineers, and your ability to communicate with your engineers is going to be so important to your job. So you don't need to be a pro at like algorithms to be a good product manager, but you should have some like base level of technical fluency to be able to like successfully work on tech products with engineers. But yeah, like in terms of the soft skills, everything that's mentioned here, like you have to be a master communicator, because every single person that you're interfacing with speaks in different languages. Like the sales team and the design team and the engineering team, they all have different lingo. They all have different ways of communicating what they know. And those are all subject matter experts, and that's great. But as a PM, like you have to be able to like translate what every single subject matter expert is like saying, so that you can bridge the gap in communication between different stakeholders. Problem solving skills is also really important. Like I said before, you know, if you are a good product manager, you understand your users' problems and potential solutions that can solve all of your users' problems, but have the ability to also prioritize all the potential solutions. And then product sense is like also very closely related to that. Like if you're someone who can understand like what's going to delight your users and have the most impact on users' experiences, just like product designers do as well, that's going to be really important to your job. And out of the last three things, I think convincing difficult people is also really important. You're almost always going to have, whether it's your customers / users or your executive team or your engineers, they're going to disagree with you, right? Like you're going to pitch a product vision to them, a product roadmap to them, and they're going to question you. And they're going to say, why did you make that decision? Like, does that actually work? Will that actually benefit us? And being able to advocate for yourself and your decisions in a eloquent manner is going to be really important too.
That's some really good solid points, and I think everyone can resonate, regardless of which background they come from in a career perspective, is that if you've got the communication skills, if you can talk to different people depending on how they would have as an input of language. If you're talking to a salesperson, you wouldn't want to be too technical, or if you're talking to a technical person, you wouldn't want to be too salesy. So you make a really good point of all the things that you can transfer from different roles into becoming a great product manager. So I think, cautious of time, we'll be moving into the questions that we have. We have a few questions coming through the chat. So thank you for giving us a quick run through on what it takes to be a product manager. And if anyone's interested, please give it a hashtag product management down in the comments below if you're interested in the PM role. And we know that at least we can connect with you if you're interested in being a PM, and give it a react if you found that of new learning for yourself. So thanks for that, Grace. We'll want to keep you still on stage. So as every single product that you've heard about now, you've got the likes of the Facebook like buttons as well. You found this all learning, give it a quick react. But we'll be bringing on the panelists to go through a couple of the questions. We've got Vicky from the UNSW Digisoc Society to choose some of the questions. We'll have a quick run through of them. So I'll bring on board Ro and Gloria. And I forgot to mention, unfortunately, Dasani couldn't come. She had something come up as well. So we will be able to bring her amazing experience later down the track as well. So we've got Jeannie, who asks, hello to everyone. She has asked, what surprised you the most about your career and your day-to-day role? So anyone want to take that question?
No one else wants to answer that?
You can go first, Ro. You've got something in mind.
I'll go ahead then. What I found most surprising was how efficient everyone worked. I'm sure like when you've worked on group projects in uni, there's always, that person that doesn't do their work, or, you have to carry the entire group. But within my team, like everyone just works so well and seamlessly with each other. Like we work in an agile environment, so I can just update one part of the design, and then like 2 seconds later, a developer has already pushed the changes. So that was really refreshing to me when I first joined the company.
That's awesome. Anyone else have a different response?
Yeah, I could. I guess I could. Yeah. I don't know. I think. I mean, I think when I first started out in like UX or UX design, UI design, I guess like I didn't really know that product design would be covering the full spectrum, and that as a product designer you kind of like own the product end to end and you manage its life cycle. So you're not just once you've shipped your product or a feature, that's it. You kind of have to go back and iterate and monitor those metrics and make sure you're still engaging with the customers and the users that are using the product, so that you can adapt it and change it as their needs change. So I think that was like, I think that was a pleasant surprise in that sense.
Awesome. So we'll move on to the next question. So Vicky, if you can bring up the next one. You can probably see there's a design fault with Canva where it blocks out Gloria as he brings up the question. So that is also product design metric that we can also give as an example. So Kieran asks, what does the career progression for a PM look like? So I think this might be directly to you, Grace.
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely varies from company to company. Like if you're talking about a startup versus a mid-size versus a really big tech company, you're going to get different answers. But from what I've seen for larger companies like Salesforce, you would start off in your career at the company after graduating college. Like if you're like, at the stage where you're like a new grad, as an associate product manager and or like a product management specialist is what Salesforce is calling my role. And after you're an associate product manager for like 2 years, you then progress to just like the product manager title. After that, you become a senior product manager, and then you can become like a director of product management, then like a senior director of product management. And then you're probably going to be looking at like VP of product management, or like much more senior level roles. Like I know that at the very top, it's commonly known as like a chief product officer, but there's definitely some in between that I've probably forgotten. You can easily look it up online to see, but the good thing is that it's common, like while the titles are not always the same across every single company, I think the common link between companies is the more senior you go in your product management career, you usually get more people management responsibilities. So you have more people reporting to you and more accountability for everything that you do and more visibility, which has its pros and cons.
That's awesome. We've got one more, probably time for one more question. So Vicky, would you be able to choose the question for the panelists? Okay, with technology constantly changing, how do you keep up to date? And that is asked by Vicky herself.
Okay.
So anyone want to take the updated tech changes?
Okay. I'll answer this again. Technology is everywhere around us. And, I mentioned that I was on TikTok 2.5 hours yesterday. And, it's not just, entertaining yourself, it's also observing the app, how TikTok interacts and, finding ways to critique it. So this is a habit I've built up with not just TikTok, but every app that I interact with. And also Dribbble is my Bible. So that's triple B's. And it's basically an encyclopedia of all the designs that, like great designs that people upload onto this platform. Also, blogs, YouTube tutorials. There's so many places where you can, get free resources to keep you up to date with, you know, everything that's happening in the world of technology. And it never hurts to, you know, meet friends and go to meetups, connect with people on LinkedIn. Yeah, all of that becomes not just part of our job, but also part of our everyday life.
It's a very solid point around that it's everywhere. And I think, as we saw before with the TikTok app, everything is literally meticulously made. So that's a really good way to observe, and good recommendation on Dribbble as well. That's awesome. There's someone that also says Dribbble is amazing too. So thanks for everyone asking the question. I think we're cautious of time as well. So if the speakers may want to reply as well, feel free to in the comment section down below. So again, thank you to all the panelists. There are stellar, amazing, talented people across their fields, whether it be UI, UX design, product design, or PM. If you've learned something, please give it a support. Press that care button if you're on Facebook as well. If you realize this is, of course, a pathway within product management, if you see there's a reason why you have all these different icons meticulously made. So give us some support if you've learned something new. And if you'd want to keep in touch with the speakers, I definitely recommend connecting them all on LinkedIn as well. So we've got, with Gloria, we've got her Medium blog as well as her video on UNSW Digisoc. So we'll put that in the comment section below if you want to learn more about her and her amazing articles. And as well with Grace, we'll put a link down to Product Buds so you can learn more about what she does with her amazing community as well. So thanks again to everyone. I'll pass it to Jenny to go through some closing remarks as well as a couple of few links to the next upcoming event with UNSW Digisoc. So thanks again. That's it from myself, and I'll see everyone very soon.
Yep, for sure. Thank you, 𝒂𝒊, for being an amazing moderator for that panel. And of course, thank you so much, Grace, Ro, and Gloria, for coming in and giving us your time and your insights into being PM, UI, UX, and product designer. So I believe in the comments there's floating around an attendance form. So if you enjoyed this event or you learned something new, please fill out that attendance form just to let us know that you've been here. And yeah, again, thank you everyone for coming. And we hope to see you in the next event, which is a seminar on non-technical roles. So look out for when we confirm the date of that. Yeah. So everyone, hope everyone has a good afternoon, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for organizing this. It's been fantastic.
It was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you.